Imageners, thank you for tuning in live. Please let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me, that everything looks good. I am here with someone very special, Kevin Mullins. Hello, how are you?
Hey Scott, I'm very good, thanks. How are you doing? You okay?
I'm doing well. It's so funny. You and I were just talking about interruptions, and how my daughter is homesick, and I asked her to only come if there's an emergency. No joke. The minute that I hit go live, the doorbell rang. So she's on her iPad, so I just texted her saying, "Do not answer the door." Oh boy. Because now I'm down here in my office, and I'm like, I don't know who's at the door. Okay, so hopefully all is okay upstairs. Um, uh, my name is Scott Weinkiewicz, and I am the content and community manager here at Imagen. If we haven't met before, everybody watching, it is nice to meet you now. Thanks for tuning in. If you are watching on Facebook, this is very, very important. If you are watching on Facebook, please go to the URL that you see up on the screen right now. You should see on the screen. Yes, you do. We are using Restream to power this live stream. And so before you leave a comment, please grant Restream permission to see your name. Go to that link, chat.restream.io/FB. You only have to do it once forever, and then we can see your name. If you don't do this, we will only see the name Facebook user. If you're watching on LinkedIn, I'm sorry, there is no way to do this on LinkedIn. You can comment, and we will just see LinkedIn user. We won't see your actual name. So I apologize if you're doing it from there. Now, we do want to know where you are tuning in from, where you're watching from. I am coming to you live from New Jersey. And Kevin, where are you tuning in from?
I'm in a little tiny village called Malmesbury in the west of England.
Nice. What's the weather like over there right now?
Well, same as it always is in England. raining for a bit, cloudy for a bit, a little bit of sunshine, and yeah, it's just been pretty poor for the last I don't know, 20 years.
But you did just come back from a fun trip, right? So you were somewhere else for a little bit, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. I've just come back from Tokyo, so yeah, that was great. Very long flight there and back, but yeah, really cool trip, and the weather was okay actually there.
Awesome. So we have CJS Avery from Pakistan. Welcome. That's awesome. And we have Destry from Pensacola. Destry, I feel like, do you tune in often? Because I feel like I see Pensacola come up a lot. That's in Florida, by the way, Kevin, if you don't know that. Okay, so for those tuning in, yes, please keep coming with your comments of where you're tuning in from. I also want to know, or actually, I also want to see if you have edited with Imagen using Kevin's profile called Silver Film. Please post to the community some photos that you have shot with Kevin or edited with Kevin's profile. We will bring it up on the screen. We want to see what it looks like. I do have one person who submitted for a live edit with Kevin's profile, which we will be doing at some point during this live stream. So yeah, get that going. If you do share your edits in the community that you've done with Kevin's profile called Silver Film, please also just comment and let me know, so that way I can check the community and get that approved and bring it up on the screen. Otherwise, I'm not looking in the community itself, just paying attention to the chat right here. Now, if you are brand new to Imagen, welcome. We are so glad you're here with us. If you have any questions or demo requests for us during this live stream, please comment and ask. That's what this is all about, for you to also get to know Kevin. And so I got a whole bunch of questions for him, which I'm excited to get. So with that, Kevin, my first question is, can you just share a quick background about yourself, for everybody to get to know you a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So I became a professional photographer some 13 or 14 years ago. Up until that point, I was, much like lots of photographers, worked in IT. And I didn't own a camera, didn't have a camera, had no interest in photography whatsoever. But I knew that I needed to change my job, change my career. I was doing a 5-hour round trip every single day commute back into London. And I just happened to pick up a magazine one day on a train, and there was some pictures of wedding picture. There was an article about weddings, and I wasn't interested in weddings. I was already married and all that kind of stuff. But what piqued my kind of imagination, if you like, is these black and white candid pictures that were in there. It's by a photographer called Jeff Askoff, and I looked at them and I thought, wow, they're incredible. I wonder if that's a thing. And so I went home. I said to my wife, I fancy being a wedding photographer. And she thought I was absolutely crazy. And she said, you don't even own a camera, you don't smile, you're miserable, all of those things. But I did it. I kind of got some stuff, got some gear. And yeah, last weekend I photographed my 634th, I think, wedding since then. And I do all kinds of other stuff as well, but mostly in a documentary fashion, mostly in a candid fashion. That's my passion. So street photography, family photography, weddings, commercial work, even all in a candid way, and that's what I really enjoy doing.
Awesome. That's so good. That's so good. Um, I've always been I've done street photography in the past. Uh, I I'm very much I consider myself an ambiverted person. I've got both traits of both introversion and extroversion. So a while back, I even wrote a book on how to be an ambiverted, which is
Wow.
more of a introverted street photographer. Um, and so I've always been into street photography. I've always done it whenever I travel and whatnot. And it's interesting because I could never be a wedding photographer myself. I've done weddings, but I couldn't see myself doing it. I know myself too well. I couldn't actually do it. So it's cool that you managed to do um this blend of both into, bringing what you love to do, your style of shooting, your style of editing, and bring it into the weddings as well. And we're gonna be digging into all that. So I'm so great. When you first started your wedding part of your business, did you have any specific goals in mind for your business?
Yeah, I think, well, ultimately I started it and I just wanted to have a better life. That was it.
Mm,
That was really it. And as I said, I was working, kind of leaving the house at 4:30 in the morning and getting home at 8 o'clock every night, and that was just no good for me. So
mhm.
I thought, well, this looks good. You just work on Saturdays, don't you? That's all you need to do. And I foolishly thought that, as a lot of people do at the beginning. And I went into it thinking I absolutely only want to do it in this documentary style. That
Mm,
doesn't mean that I knew exactly what that meant at the time, and it doesn't mean that I got it right at the beginning, but that was always my goal. That was always my ambition. And I kept telling myself, and my wife kept telling me also, that there's no point doing this if you're going to be doing it not on your own terms, and you're not going to enjoy it. That's the most important thing. I never wanted to get to the point where I'd come home from a wedding on a Saturday, having given up my Saturdays, and thinking, oh no, that was stressful. I didn't like that. All those group shots, all that kind of stuff. So I very much ensured that I did it on my own terms without being mercenary about it. The marketing and everything that went around it was geared up to attract people that wanted that style of photography. And it worked. By and large, it worked. And there was some hiccups at the beginning, of course, and I ended up shooting way too many weddings. I think I shot 69 weddings in the first year, which was
ooh,
way too many,
yeah,
way too many.
yeah.
And that whole idea of a better way of life very fast went out the window. And so I realized very quickly that wasn't working. So I adjusted, and that was all to do with price and everything like that. So yeah, now I shoot about 25 weddings a year, which is perfect. It does give me that wonderful work life balance, which I'm very happy with. And I've got my little studio here in Malmesbury, which is a couple of minutes away from my house, so I can get out of the house, and yeah, it's all good. But having that vision, I suppose, to ensure that I photographed, I built a business and built a career that was entirely dependent on me having a better work life balance. That was always the main commitment, like 100%. And that's a couple of times I thought, well, I don't think this is working, and so maybe it's time to go back to the day job. But stuck with it, and yeah, like 13, 14 years, whatever it is yeah, I think 9th of August 2008, I think, was the first wedding I shot.
Wow.
So yeah, here we are.
How long do you think it took for you to reach that goal of like feeling like you're, at a point with your wedding photography business that you are, comfortable and um not worrying as much about everything? Like, how long do you think it took for you to get there?
I think, like from a work-life balance, pretty quick. I
Yeah.
have to say that
Yeah.
that first year was brutal, but those 70 weddings were essentially from August to about March the following year, and I'd already come the end of that year, that Christmas time period. I'd put the prices up, I'd adjusted everything, I'd changed a lot of things, so that happened pretty quick. But the idea of I still, every time I go to a wedding, I still get nervous. I still get anxious. I still want to do a good job. I still worry that I've gone to the right door, the right building, the right hotel. All of those things are still there. They don't go away, and I don't think I really want them to go away, because that introduces a little bit of kind of apathy, I think. But yeah, I mean, I see it a lot, especially with wedding photographers. I see them take on too much too soon, and that can become very problematic very, very quickly from a family basis. And I have seen some horror stories from good friends of mine who have done that. They can't get blinkered by the money, and they did, it's like, oh, just take that extra one, it'll be another $1,000 or 2,000, 3,000, whatever it is. That would be great. I can, get a new camera, or we can go on holiday or whatever. And that never stops. And there needs to be an understanding that, you really do. This is I always say to people, being any photography business, it's 10% taking pictures, 90% being a business person,
Yeah.
and that 90% is all encompassing. But part of that has to come down to managing the business, managing your own personal expectations, your expectations of your friends and family, and obviously of your clients as well, rather than just simply taking every job that comes along,
Yeah.
because you'll soon burn out for sure.
Yeah. 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 And plus, in 2008, when you started and you did just shy of what 70 weddings,
Mm.
uh, Imagine didn't exist.
Oh,
so so
oh no,
that's a lot of culling and editing all on your own.
yeah, and I got it
So
very, very wrong at the beginning. I can tell you that now. Yeah, very wrong.
we all do. We all do. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Um, so speaking of editing, can you tell me a little bit about your profile? Share um, what what's the story behind um, silver film and what encompasses it?
Well, I mean, if I, the easiest way for me to kind of explain this, I think, is if I look at my own personal photos that I've taken over the years since I've been a photographer,
Mhm.
and a vast majority of those don't go any further than my own computer, my family, prints in the house, that kind of stuff. And a great many of those, in fact, like 95% of them, are black and white. I just love it. I love a gritty, grainy, filmic looking black and white. And I often joke to other photographers that every time there's a new camera, we kind of, oh, it's got more megapixels, it's faster, it does all more better autofocus, all of that kind of stuff, and we spend, whatever, £2,000 or whatever on a camera, and then we edit the pictures to make them look like film, make them look like they were taken on a camera in 1975.
Yeah.
And I'm the most guilty of this. And I feel like now, it sounds a bit of a weird thing, but I feel like now that I understand the relationship between light, composition, and moment. They're the three things that make a good picture. The only three things that you need really is light, composition, and moment. And the light is really important. And to that end, I even now we live in a mirrorless world. I actually have my camera set to black and white, so I see in black and white when I'm shooting. Even
That's
though I'm shooting raw, I see in
yeah.
black and white, which means that I can see the light and the shadow much more clearly than I can
Mhm.
when it's in color. So that gives me a really good idea of the contrast in a scene, the contrast in a picture that's going to be at the end of it. And I just, it's a very subjective thing, black and white, because obviously we live in a color world. Everything is in real life in color, but I do feel like that in black and white. I'm looking at a picture behind this screen now, in fact, of the London skyline that I took, and it's black and white, and it just allows me to, my eyes are darting all over and seeing the buildings and the people on the streets and all of that kind of stuff, and the color is not there, so it's not blinkering me, it's not defining where my eyes are going. I'm actually being able to explore it more naturally with my eyes. And I just think it does come down to this idea of nostalgia. I think nostalgia is a very important thing for me. I want all my pictures for my clients to be just as important today as they will be for their kids and their grandkids and all of that stuff. And I think when you see things or when you produce things in black and white, it's going to look good today. It's going to look good in 50 years' time. As much as presets and filters and the other talent profiles all have their own look and feel. Things change, and certainly things like Instagram, where people put weird and wacky filters on things. Yeah, they might look cool now, but you're going to look at those in 40 years' time, and they're not going to look so cool. But I think black and white stands the test of time.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely does. I've always what you were talking about, where turning your mirrorless to black and white. I used to do that with it when I was still shooting with a DSLR. I would do that. Obviously, at that point, it's just when you view it on the back of the
Yeah.
screen after the fact. But I felt like when I'm chimping or just reviewing a beautiful landscape photo, it's like it's more impactful and to look at it in many cases as a black and white. So you take away all the color emotions and
Mm.
distractions from it. Um,
Yeah.
and I do that a lot now with mirrorless as well. It is a great technique to do. If everybody's watching, if you've never tried that ever, I wouldn't say necessarily to try it on the client work, but try it sometime, see
Yeah.
how it feels for you, because you might find that it unlocks your creativity even more to do that. Even if you don't leave it as black and white after the fact.
No,
If you're
absolutely.
shooting,
Yeah.
yeah, because if you're shooting in RAW, it's
Yeah.
still importing to Lightroom as color, right?
Yeah.
You still have all the color data there. It's just gonna look black
Yeah,
and white in your camera.
exactly that.
So
Yeah, just be careful that if you are shooting JPEG, you will end up with
differ.
just black and white JPEG. So just be
Yes,
careful. But
yes, definitely.
combining that with spot metering in the modern mirrorless cameras is just
Mm,
incredibly powerful. You can just see the exposure changing in front of you, and
yeah.
you can really hone in on the light and shadow.
Yeah. So speaking of cameras, what cameras do you use typically for your work?
Well, I'm a Fujifilm ambassador, so I'm using all Fujifilm cameras. I suppose probably my favorite one is, I think I have it here, is the X100.
Hmm.
So that's the my kind of pickup and go camera. But for currently, what I'm using for my jobs is an X Pro 3 and a one of the new ones, XH2S. So two very different cameras actually, but yeah, all Fujifilm. And I've been using. I started with Canon back in the day. I had a 1DX, I think it was called, and a 5D Mark II, and they were very capable. They were very good.
Yeah.
I had no problems with them, apart from they were just big and heavy. And
Right.
I fancied something different, and so I fell into at the time Fujifilm were the only cameras I could afford. It was either that or Leica, and that was just not an option. So I ended up going down the Fujifilm route, and I've been there ever since. Yeah. So I typically shoot, well, in fact, I always shoot with just two lenses. In the APS-C world, it's 18mm and 56, which is roughly 24 and 85 in full frame equivalent. That's it. Yeah.
Nice. That was gonna be my next question to you. Where's your go-to lenses? But there you go.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's
yeah.
it. That's literally pretty much all I use. Yeah.
Nice. So you mentioned the Leica. Just out of curiosity, as a person who loves black and white as much as you do, um, while you may not own a Leica body, have you played around with their black and white only cameras
I
ever?
haven't actually, but I have. I did go on a Leica experience day. I was invited to one several years ago, it was a Leica. They gave me for the day a Leica M6,
Mm,
which I really enjoyed using actually. And when we got when we got the pictures back, they were really nice. But I feel the way that I shoot, I rely on autofocus too much to go
mm.
down a
Oh,
true
yeah.
rangefinder route. I wouldn't trust myself enough to go down a true rangefinder route. But yeah, I've got friends with those like monochromes, and yeah, they're beautiful. They create beautiful pictures. Yeah, definitely. But they're still just a bit too
Nice.
expensive for me.
Cool. All right, so I got a question from I don't know who it is. I apologize because it just says Facebook user. Just as a reminder, if you want us to see your name and you're watching on Facebook, you have to connect Restream. So Facebook user asks, Kevin, do you work primarily alone?
Yeah, almost always alone. And very rarely will I have a second shooter. It is an option for my clients, but I
Hmm.
actually discourage it unless it's a very, very large wedding. Often Asian weddings, for example, I did a 2-day Asian wedding on the weekend, and I had a second shooter with me,
Hmm.
and that's principally so they can deal with any formal requirements that a cultural wedding might need. But yes, it's generally just me, and I prefer it that way because I kind of sell myself to my clients as this just another guest. I'm going to
Right.
behave like a guest, be like a guest, dress like a guest, and blend in as much as possible. And so I feel like sometimes if there's 2 or 3 photographers, the guests can feel a little bit like they're being paparazzi'd. There's
Mm.
kind of cameras everywhere. So I prefer to work alone, and so that works for me. But unless it's a huge wedding, in which case I might bring somebody else. But yeah,
What
it's
about
good.
just an assistant for like carrying or moving things or whatever? Not necessarily a second shooter.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, the cameras are small. The lens, I never change the
Right.
lenses. I don't use flash,
Mhm.
so I just don't need. I don't need it really. Like everything is in my. In most cases, I don't even take my bag into the wedding. I'll leave it in the car with any kind of backup equipment. Obviously, I have backup cameras and lenses and all that kind of stuff. And so it's just all on my hips and away I go. And I prefer it that way because I can just do exactly what I want, be where I want, do what I want without worrying about anybody else. And it works. I think it works really well for a documentary style photographer. Obviously, if you're more of a formal style photographer or editorial, then yes, it makes sense to have second shooters and
Mhm.
kind of assistants to help you move stands and various things like that. But
Cool.
yeah, it's just me.
Awesome. I think what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to go into demoing, doing the live edit. So, um, an Imagener named Paul actually submitted one raw file,
Hmm.
and for me to edit with your profile. So we're going to go through that right now, send it for editing, and then we're going to talk about what we might do after the fact once it's been edited. So first, let me share my screen. All right. Let me hide that. Okay. So here I am in the Imagen app, and I'm going to go ahead and create a project. And we're going to pull up the Lightroom catalog. And I am editing this one, and we're going to call it Silver Film Live Edit, November 3rd. And Silver Film. Should we straighten and crop it or just let it go? What do you think?
It's entirely up to you. I haven't seen the original image, so
It's I'm gonna go with straighten just for the
okay.
heck of it.
Yeah,
Okay, and then we'll add that, and it's only one photo, so we're just gonna upload that. This should go pretty quick, and we'll get it back practically instantly because it's only
yeah,
one photo.
yeah.
So that's good. It's already sent. So we just wait, and we'll have that back in a second. I'll just open my email just so I see the notification too pop in.
It's
Let's
incredibly
see.
quick, isn't it?
It is. It is. Um, It'd probably be like, I don't know, a minute or so. So this photo, I believe, if I recall, because I looked at it once, I think it was a portrait. I think it was a bride, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
Um, okay, it says it's ready. Okay, so we're gonna download. And then I'm gonna open Lightroom. Now here's the long part, unfortunately. All right. While we're waiting for Lightroom to load, if anybody has any questions for Kevin, please keep them coming in the live chat, so I can be sure to ask them for you. I have a few more questions left from myself, as well as a fun surprise. All right, so here's the photo. Let's bring up a quick before and after so you can see what the original was like.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's possibly a bride getting ready, or like during the getting ready time. And yeah, so there's the gowns in the back, very underexposed. So you can see it came out a little dark, right?
Yeah.
So for me, what I would do is I would either start with a local adjustment of the person,
Hmm.
or I would just jump into playing around with the shadows here globally and seeing what it does, or just bump up the exposure. So I would mess around with those three different things. What would you do right out of the gate looking at this result?
Yeah, same thing. So you're right to you should eyeball every image afterwards for sure. And
Hmm.
with images like this, now I also have images like this where the light isn't particularly flattering.
Hmm.
It's not the light is coming almost from over her right shoulder, so she is quite dark in the scene, and in the white wall and the dress and everything in the background is is the most obvious white part of the area. So yeah, I try not to do local adjustments unless I have to. So using the new masking tools and all that kind of stuff, as good as they are, I try and
Yeah.
avoid them if I can. So yeah, the first thing I would be doing is pushing the exposure up a little bit, overall exposure, and then dropping down the highlights to try and bring that back, and then maybe push the shadows forward to bring that back up in the body. Yeah, somewhere along that line
Cool.
until it
Yeah. So now
looks
if we look at the before
reasonable.
after, let's go back to the side by side. There we go.
Yeah. What you want to try and avoid is any kind of, you've got the histogram in the top right hand side, which is good here.
Yep.
So it's not touching the sides on anywhere. You're not losing those lights that are hanging down the chandelier, if you like. They're not burnt out, which is, that's why I'm guessing that's why the photographer, the subject in the picture is dark, because the photographer quite rightly is trying to get everything not
Yeah.
overexposed in the scene. So
Definitely.
yeah, good. Nice
Cool.
picture.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for Paul for sending that in. If you want to send in, I think I can pull it up on screen. If you want to send in photos for a live edit, do I not have a caption for this already prepared? I don't. I don't have. I have to prepare that for the next one. Anyway, so in the description to the live stream, there's a link where you can submit for future live edits, and you can choose which talent AI profile you want that edited with. So if you're interested in seeing that something like that in the future for your own photos, feel free to submit at any point. All right. Now, my next question to you. This is gonna be a fun one. But actually, my next three questions, I'm really excited to hear the answers to. So, um, tell me about one of the craziest things that you have experienced as a street photographer or a wedding photographer.
Okay, so as a wedding photographer, the most it's actually, well, it's more sad than anything, is somebody, a grandmother actually passing away right in front of me at
Oh,
a wedding. Yeah, I mean, she was very, very old. But yeah, that happened, which is not something that's in the rule book. That kind of takes you by surprise a little bit.
yeah.
But yeah, I've had lots of, I've had the occasional groom who wanted me to go and get, let's just say, different pictures of the bride while she's getting ready for different reasons,
Mm,
which I've declined. I've had weddings where there's been kind of distant family members have not got on very well, and there's been a bit of fisticuffs. But by and large, weddings, though, honestly, they've been great. And I always say to my clients that, even though, especially in the UK, where they tend to follow a particular formula, that actually every wedding is very different, because everybody at the wedding is different, and that's what makes it different. The people. I did a wedding couple of weeks ago in Norway. I flew over to Norway, and it was in it's a place called Sonnetar Viewpoint. So it's right up in the north of Norway. It's a glass box on the side of a mountain overlooking a fjord. It was like a 45-minute hike from the base of the mountain up there. So we all had to hike up there. Um, 35 guests, I think, something like that. And of course, what nobody seemed to take into account was that that hike, everybody was going to get hot and steamy walking up that hill. They all pile into this glass room, and so it totally steamed up. So the views that they'd gone to get married for, they couldn't really see through the glass box. So I've done weddings in the most incredible places, I have to say, and been to the most incredible places as well. But yeah, things happen, but by and large, they're pretty straightforward. And then from a street photography point of view,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I, I'm not one of those street photographers that get myself into trouble. I don't.
Right.
I would only, and I always say this to my students, I would only ever take pictures of something happening that I'd be happy to be in that picture myself.
Mm,
There's ethical boundaries that I have that other people, they must draw their own ethical boundaries, of course. So
mm,
I'm interested in, like I said earlier, the nostalgic element of things. So I love just, I could spend a whole day on one street corner and tell the story of it. Because those pictures now might not be interesting, but in the future they certainly will be. But yeah, I've been in situations down in London when I mean we seem to have a different prime minister every week at the moment in the UK, but during political turmoil, Brexit, that kind of thing, where there's been some very angry mobs who whichever side of the thought process we're on, seemed to think that anybody who had a camera was fair game, and to either play up to it or shout at them, all of that kind of stuff. And actually, because we have cameras and everybody has a camera in virtue of their phones and stuff these days, it's totally the norm. But if you did go back to even the 80s, having a photograph taken by a stranger was somewhat novel. It was a novelty, and you might think, oh yeah, well, that's I'm intrigued. Why are they taking my picture? And I quite like that idea. Now, of course, it's almost the other way. People feel, why is he taking my picture, and what's he going to do with it? So the difficulties of street photography are very real. And in some countries, you just simply can't do it. Simple as that.
right.
But yeah, nothing from a street photography point of view. I do try and keep my powder dry, as my wife says. Don't put yourself in any situations where you wouldn't want yourself to be photographed. And just generally, it's about storytelling and about kind of passing the current times on to the future generations through
Right.
pictures.
Right. Cool. Um, so tell me one thing that has humbled you as a photographer.
Uh, Lots and lots and lots of things. Yeah, I mean, I could say, being an ambassador for Fujifilm and the opportunities that has given me is
Mhm.
very, very humbling. I have to say, I've been all around the world really for doing different things, talks and events and stuff like that. I think if we're talking about a kind of from a technological point of view, um, definitely what is something humble is that I've been involved in some of the early meetings and design projects for Fujifilm in the early days, and so
Mhm.
there are certain things that I can't really kind of tell you exactly what they are, but I can look at certain cameras and know that is my idea, or that
That's cool.
element of it is my thought process went into making
Yeah.
that happen, and it's a real thing. So that's very humbling. And yes, certain weddings when you kind of have occasionally totally strangers will come up to you at a wedding, or in fact on the street. It happened in Tokyo. In fact, some random guy came up to me and said, "Hey, you're Kevin Mullins. I watch your YouTube channel," and that's humbling. It's lovely, and
Yeah.
it's very humbling.
Yeah.
And I said that to my wife, that that happens occasionally, and she said, "No, it doesn't." And then we were out shopping in Bristol, and some guy came up to me and, "Hey, you're Kevin Mullins." She was convinced I paid him to do it.
That's so funny. That's so funny. That happened to me recently. I was at a local Target shopping with my son, and an Imagener walked up and said, "Are you Scott from Imagine?"
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, that's
It's a
um,
nice feeling.
yeah, it is. It is. Okay, so the last of these three deep questions: Do you have an embarrassing photography story that you can share?
Embarrassing. Well, yeah, I suppose this is embarrassing. So, we have she's no longer a royal princess anymore, but Sarah was Prince Andrew's wife, Sarah Ferguson. And I photographed her brother's wedding, and she was a guest. I did not know it was her brother's wedding. I knew the name was Ferguson, but I did not know. I did not recognize her because I don't really follow the kind of royal families and stuff. And she has a daughter who is a princess still, and the daughter was they had Instax cameras at the wedding, and so I see this girl. She took the printout to the bottom of the Instax, and it's almost like a party trick with me. So if I see anybody shake an Instax print at a wedding, I go up to them and I say, "Don't shake it! Don't shake it! You'll spread the ink, and then it'll ruin it. It's a myth. You mustn't shake it." So I tapped this girl on the shoulder and I said, "Don't shake the Instax." And she looked at me and she was like, "Oh, I'm very dreadfully sorry." I said, "It's all right. It's just a joke." Anyway, she turned out to be a princess. Yeah, one of the princesses, Queen's granddaughter, which I didn't know. And then I sent I sent a screenshot from the back of my camera to my wife. I said, "I kind of recognize this girl." My wife said, yeah. There's a reason you recognize her. So yeah, that was very embarrassing afterwards.
Oh, that's a pretty good one. I like that. I like that. Okay, so we are gonna do something that I've never done before. Um, I gave you a little bit of heads up, but we don't know what your question you're about to be asked. Pick a color.
I'm gonna go green.
Going green. Okay, here we go. Tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay. Everybody watching, Kevin has no idea. I didn't know what question I was going to ask him. Kevin has no idea what question I was going to ask him. There's a question on here I'm about to ask him. Okay. This might be a simple answer. Does your name have a special or significant meaning? If so, what?
No, I don't think it does. However, there you go. That's the answer. But I don't like my name. If that helps
Really?
lengthen the question. Yeah, in the UK, Kevin is certainly when I was growing up was very very kind of they had like lots of TV personalities that were usually cartoons and stuff, and they used to call him Kevin a lot. And I'm from Wales, so I'm Welsh, and the Welsh way of saying Kevin is CEFYN, or actually CEFFYN. And I always wish my parents had gone that way. You still call it Kevin, but it's got a proper Welsh swing to it. So no, my surname is Mullins, which is Irish for potato picker in the end. So potato picker, which actually back in time, most Irish people were potato pickers of some kind. So yeah, no, it's not. I don't like it particularly well, but there you go. We're stuck with it, aren't we?
Well, see, I thought I was going to get a very simple, you know,
Yeah,
no answer, but hey, thanks for going into detail. That was good.
it's all right.
Okay, so two more questions for you. The first one is, what is one thing that you wish you knew about wedding photography before you got started?
uh, I wish that I knew that it's very easy to lose track of how much your bottom line is, and basically from a business point of view, it's quite a boring answer really, but it's very easy, and I'm convinced a lot of photographers still do this, especially in the UK, to earn less than almost minimum wage by being a wedding photographer because you put too much time into everything else. So connecting it with the Imagen stuff right at the beginning, from an editing point of view, I would edit all of the images in both black and white and color, and then afterwards I would decide which ones to give to the clients. So before the color, I didn't do the culling or anything. And one of the things that I encourage people to do is track their time, and I don't mean use a little egg timer and do it like kind of forensically, but just get an understanding of roughly how long things like editing, driving to a wedding, pre-wedding shoots, calls, meetings, all album design, all of that stuff, that should all be taken into account when you're pricing your product, because ultimately, yes, it might be great to earn $2,000 or £2,000 for what seems like a Saturday job, but if it's taking you 2-3 weeks to actually get through the work, then you are on minimum wage, or you're under minimum wage probably. So just bear that in mind. And I didn't really fully understand everything that went with running the business. I quickly learned. So yeah, I think that would probably be the thing. It was this idea of, just buy a camera, take photos of people, take their money. What could possibly go wrong? Uh, you know,
Nothing.
yeah,
Nothing.
nothing.
Like a wedding guest could die at the wedding, and
Yeah,
you know,
exactly that. Yeah,
and you're
exactly.
perfectly prepared for it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ay, ay. So my last question to you is, what do you love to focus on while Imagine handles that tedious part of your post production?
Yeah, probably my guitar, which is you can see it in the background, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly good at it, but I'm practicing and I'm learning. So yeah, I mean that's definitely something that I have two of them here in the studio. So when the computer's whirring away, or whenever I've got a bit of free time, that's what I'll do. I'll pick it up and yeah, get on with that.
Nice. Love it. I'm right there with you. Picking up, so my acoustic is to the left of me. And uh
It's great
so
fun.
I'm
It
yeah,
is.
yeah.
What's
Awesome.
your favorite style? I'm a big kind of country and folk fan. Cool country, not you know.
Yeah. So I like everything. I like everything. I was in bands when I was younger. I was in bands, and I've played things from punk to like indie rock to like almost metal. So I've been around as far as that goes. But like I feel like as I've gotten older, I've mellowed out a lot in my music taste. So I'm more light indie rock and a lot of acoustic,
Mm,
Jason Mraz, and
mhm,
just mellow um, things. Like, just because I find that now, uh, the heavier it is, the more, I guess, like agitated it can make me now. Whereas,
mhm.
it impacts you what you listen to, which I wish
Yep.
I knew that when I was younger.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah, but as you get older, the rest of the world seems to be more important, and you read the news more often and things like that, and your mood swings are different. And so, when you're a
yeah.
kid, you tend not to. That's your parents worry about the rest of the world, but now we're parents, we worry about it.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you, Kevin, for joining me today. Thank you for answering all these questions, and for sharing some. So even your name history, that's so good, so good. Thank you so much again for hopping in and taking time today. And oh, I have to do the hold on. We got to celebrate because your profile's live, so we have to
Yeah, yeah,
celebrate.
yeah.
Um, so I've been doing that for each of these talent launch live streams. So gotta get that in there. If you have enjoyed this live stream with Kevin Mullins and would like to know when the next live stream is, then know you are invited to be part of the bigger conversation. Join the Imagine community today by going to imagineai.com/community. By joining the community, you get access to exclusive conversations like this, live events, Q&As with Imagine's founders, and so much more. So we hope to see you there. Again, that's imagineai.com/community. Let me also bring up again, you can find Kevin over there. Ah, I can't point to it. You're right above it.
Yeah.
So if you point down, so you can find Kevin in the community, and also at his website, which is right there up on the screen. And yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in, for asking your questions, for sharing where you're coming in from. Thank you again to Paul for submitting your photo for us to edit live, and we hope that you enjoyed what we would do to it after the fact, and I'll send that off to you as well, so you can get the JPEG back of the edit. With that, again, thank you, Kevin. Would you like to say anything before we wrap it up?
No, no, just yeah, remember to enjoy your job. That's very important.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Great. Well, with that, we're off.